All right, Chair.
Okay, we'll call the City of Olivet Planning and Community Design Commission for January 6, 2022 to order. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Rob Jurgel,
Present.
Carol Wagner,
Present.
Jody Rich here, Richard Brophy,
Absent.
Brian Lewis,
Present.
Daniel Rosenberg,
Present.
and Tim Spiegelglass.
Present.
All right, let it also be known that Carlos Trejo, the Olivet Planning and Community Development Department's director, is in attendance, as well as, Dawn Doty should be coming on. I know she's having some technical difficulties, but Senior Planner Dawn Doty, she'll be coming online soon, as well as Bridget Waters, the Administrative Assistant, and City Council Member Missy Waldman as our City Council Liaison. All right. So thanks everybody for joining us via Zoom. I guess what's old is new. So we're back here at this stage, and we appreciate your patience. I know all of you guys in attendance have always been doing this via Zoom, but we're kind of juggling back and forth. And so hopefully we'll remember all the quick details and everything like that to keep things moving smooth. Just let everybody know we do have public comments that are related to items that are not on the agenda item. We will have that after we review these commission procedures. And we do ask you to state your name and address for the record. And then also limit your comments to no more than 3 minutes to be respectful for everybody's time, as well as to make sure we can get everybody's opinion heard. We do ask you to also put your video on as well. If you want, you can also submit your comments in writing, which can be read aloud by staff. So, and just try to be patient with us as we go through this, and we'll be patient with you as you come on board. So, and if just as a reminder, if you do have a comment that's related to any agenda item, we will have time to go through that. When we go through each of these agenda items, there'll be a staff report to go over that agenda item. There'll be discussions among members of the commission with staff. And then we typically bring on the petitioner to further discuss the item. And then we'll ask for public comments related to each item on the list. So, Carlos, did I miss anything?
No, sir.
All right, good. So I guess we'll call for public comments. Carlos, do you see any yet?
No, if there's anybody that would like to speak to the commission for an issue or item that is not on the scheduled agenda, if you can show your hands, it's generally located on your Zoom screen, kind of on the lower center of the monitor. If so, I'll transfer you over. It does take a time, so I ask the commission just to be patient, just to see if anybody does want to transfer over. And Chairman, I see none. And
Good. If anybody does have a comment and they just couldn't figure out the system, maybe if you can use the text or the chat method and let us know, we can revisit that at the end of the old business and new business items. Okay, Carlos, well, that being said, we'll move on to old business. And we'll move on to item A, which is 4 Arbor Road. Petition type is a concept stormwater management plan review for a new single-family residence. Petitioner is Mark Manlin with Dyquem 913 LLC. Property owner is May Family Trust. Carlos?
Chairman, this was a petition that was at our last meeting on December 16th, so I won't go through a full review unless requested. The commission approved the community design review, which primarily consists of the architectural plans in there. But there was some outstanding issues from the staff memorandum regarding the site improvements, and therefore the commission deferred action on the concept stormwater management plan review. Since then, the petitioner has submitted some revisions. Those are illustrated in in the screen view right now, and also copies were provided in your packet. They were able to reduce the slope of the driveway. This was done by actually having to shift the house 10 feet further to the west to help to try to accommodate the slope and get that down to a little bit more manageable slope. It's still not a perfect slope, but this is a pretty there's a pretty big grade deviation from the street to where the house placement is. So we do appreciate their efforts to try to do this and minimize the slope as best as possible. In addition to that, staff had concerns about the sheet flow of stormwater on the driveway turnaround to the property immediately to the south. And they have provided a lip along that edge to redirect the stormwater flow. Not necessarily, water is still going to go downhill, but what this does at least captures that water that is hitting the impervious space, which is moving at a faster velocity, and redirecting it towards the street. And the purpose for that is that also gets it away from the neighbor's garage entrance on the south. So that's the purpose. It's still going to go downhill, and we're not trying to change the direction of the water flow. We're just trying to minimize the velocity that's coming off of that driveway turnaround going directly onto the neighboring property. You have your staff memo on that. Staff is satisfied with the changes that were incorporated and be glad to answer any specific questions. I do have representatives from the subdivision and the petitioner online, and Chairman, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
No, I think these improvements are good. Any questions for other commission members?
I just have one, Carlos. I was curious. This is the one where a neighbor was concerned around noise around one of the units. Is that correct?
There was some concerns regarding the placement of the garage because it's been flipped. Instead of the garage being on the north side of the property, it's now on the south side of the property. But that generally isn't the code issue that the commission would, or the city would get involved. It meets all the proper setbacks along there. They did talk about putting some vegetation or some type of berm, which would be difficult because again, there's already some existing pine trees illustrated on the site improvement plans that are located there.
Okay, I just wasn't sure if the 10-foot move was a difference, but if it's been flipped, maybe it's been remediated.
Get a little closer view. Okay, and you should be able to see here is the new garage. Again, it's shifted backwards, so it's now somewhat aligned here with their turnaround. Now they have a detached garage structure here, but that's a parking area along this side. And then you can see these 5 pines that are kind of located primarily on the adjacent neighbor's side. And then there's a fence as you go back here.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, Carlos, do we need to hear from the developers?
Chairman, I'll ask if the developer or the petitioner, the property owners would like to speak, if they can show their hands in there. All right, I do have one. Bear with me. Okay. I'm going to promote Mr. Manlin just to make sure. I was having a little glitch here. Mark Manlin is the representing the May Family Trust in this, and Mr. Manlin, if you can, of course, unmute yourself and utilize your video and state your name and address, would be greatly appreciated.
Can you hear me and see me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm Mark Manlin, 14 Spady Lane. Carlos, I think you pretty well characterized our changes. As you said, we moved the house back 10 feet, reduced the driveway slope from a 15% to a 12%. There was a question about the screening on the revised plan. We are going to be putting a fence along the left side towards kind of the back of the house, which will enclose the AC condensers. And then we'll have some plantings around it. So visually, we'll be screening it. And with those trees, it should also offer kind of a sound barrier too. So, we've addressed that concern.
Good, guys. Any commission members have any specific questions for Mr. Manlin? Seeing none, I appreciate your time and thank you for making those changes. I think that was good. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thanks for the guidance.
And Chairman, if we can ask if there's anybody in the public, there is a hand up.
Yep, that's what I was going to do next. So thank you.
If there's anybody in the public that would like to speak in regards to this item, if you can show your hand, Mr. Kalina, I'm going to transfer you over. And Mr. Kalina, if you can unmute and of course have your video on and state your name and address.
Hello,
Hello, Mr. Kalina. All right, you're on in regards to the petition for 4 Arbor Road.
I was not intending to be. I'm having a problem getting set up here. Are you able to see and or hear me now?
Yes, both.
Okay, this is a software that I'm not familiar with, so I just raised my hand in the hopes that you could help get me on board. I do not have any questions specific to 4 Arbor Road. Sorry to have interrupted.
Okay, I'm
No
going to
worries.
transfer you back to an attendee, and then later on down, I know you're here for a specific agenda item. We'll bring you right back, okay?
Okay, so basically, if I do want to join with something else, I just do the hand game at the bottom?
That is correct, sir.
Okay, fabulous. Thank you again. I'm sorry to interrupt at this juncture. Thank you for getting me on board.
All right, Chairman, I see no other hands.
Okay, great. Okay, so do I hear a motion?
And I'll note for the commission members that the recommended motion is posted on should be posted on your monitor.
I'll make a motion.
Go ahead, Brian.
Motion to approve the petition for concept stormwater management plan review for a new single-family home at 4 Arbor Road as presented in the memorandum from the Department of Planning and Community Development dated January 6, 2022, subject to any staff conditions noted therein.
Mr. Chairman, I'll second.
Motion's been made by Brian Lewis and seconded by Carol Wagner. Carlos, you please call the vote.
Yes. Commissioner Rosenberg?
Approve.
Commissioner Spiegelglass?
Approve.
Commissioner Lewis?
Approve.
Commissioner Rich?
Approved.
Commissioner Wagner?
Yes,
Chairman Jurgel?
Approved.
And the motion passes unanimously, 6-0. And again, I just want to note that the architectural plans being part of the community design review were already approved by the commission at their December 16th meeting. So this completes the full approval of the petition and authorizes the applicant to submit for building permits.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manlin.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay, Carlos, let us know when you want to move on to item B.
All right.
Okay. You ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay, 73 Stony Side Lane. Petition type is a concept stormwater management plan review for a new single-family residence. Carlos?
And Chairman, this item was before the commission at their December 16th meeting, in which the commission authorized approval of the community design review component, which primarily consists of the building plans, but deferred action on the concept stormwater management plan review regarding a couple of items that the staff had expressed some concerns in resolving. Since that meeting, two items have been addressed. One is the relocation of the detention pit, and hopefully you can see the little mouse icon here. That has been separated away from the driveway, so there's no overlap. And the concern with the overlap is that water does manage to seep in through the compacted rock and could find its way even all the way up to the home in its basement. So we try to keep a good distance between those improvements and the detention pond pits, that is. The second item was that they didn't identify where the sump pump was going to emit, and that has been illustrated here in yellow. Regarding the other items that were noted in the staff report, within your packet, you have the comments received from the petitioner's representative. We still have some questions regarding that. However, it was difficult during the holiday break to try to sit together and meet and address those. So the staff is asking the opportunity to administratively resolve those issues with the petitioner, utilizing our stormwater consultant in there. We think we have them narrowed down. We understand their view and perspective, and again, if there's ways that we can try to mediate these and work with the petitioners, we would do so. And then the last thing is that there is a requirement for detention being provided for the pool and deck, independent of that of the stormwater pit for the roof area. That is required by code, and that will have to be provided. That could be done in the form of a BMP or utilization of a BMP as recommended by staff for some of these corner areas. Be glad to answer any specific questions. We do have the petitioner online, and if there's any questions, Chairman, be glad to answer.
Does any members of the commission have any questions for Carlos? Carlos, the only question I had, were there any of those comments that you wanted to go over at all? You know, what they had? And
they primarily deal with the view or the perspective that the slope is below a specific percentage, in this case 3%, that some of the areas are pretty flat. Our concern is based on past experience and some of the improvements that are made. And again, there's different filters as this goes through. There's the design that we see in a two-dimensional form, which generally looks, it's well thought out and made. And then there's the actual reality of when it's put in place and how thorough they followed the plans in there. There's two components to that, because there's the enforcement process to try to ensure that these plans are being followed through to the T. And then there's the contractor component that they're also trying to finish up or expedite what they're doing. And that's where usually the conflict arises, especially when we get to grades that are really, you know, they're close in there. Our concerns, again, are based just to make sure that we provide the best analysis and review to reduce impact on adjacent property owners. And again, we want to kind of, you know, further the use of BMPs or landscaping as a means to help keep water on properties, not move water along that stormwater basin.
right.
And again, we're open to discussion, or just making sure that, you know, we had that discussed, and that the surveyor provides us the assurances that this is going to work.
Exactly. And I do agree, getting our, you know, consultant involved with it is probably one of the best things for us to be doing. So, okay. Do you want to see if the petitioner has any?
Yes. Mr. Ivanchuk, I'm going to promote you to panelist. Mr. Ivanchuk is the petitioner for 73 Stony Side. He's also the architect of record. Mr. Ivanchuk, again, you should be up and you're unmuted, so.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Very
Yes,
quietly.
very lightly.
For some reason, my audio went to my.
There you go.
As a reminder, if you could just state your name and address for the record, that'd be great.
My name is Pavel Ivanchuk, architect, address 101 South Grant Avenue.
Good. Thank you. Was there anything that you wanted to mention or point out?
I'm looking at the same statement from the civil engineer, Clay Vance, that was addressing the staff review concerns. And he did not have a concern with. So there were a number of issues here with the it seemed like he explained his position, and that was that. I really don't have anything to add beyond that, actually.
Was there anything that you wanted to be further wanted further clarification on? To see if these were acceptable to the staff?
Yeah,
Is
we'd
the
like
only-
to see if these are acceptable to staff.
Because the only thing I see something about the consultant, or not consultant, but Mr. Vance talking about the issues with the pool. And I think that's still going to require detention based on what I'm hearing from Carlos.
It looks like the only point that will require detention is the pool deck runoff. Is that?
There's a calculation that has to be done for both the pool deck, the improvements that are not covered in the backyard. So that's going to include the patio, the pool deck, and the pool footprint itself. And there may be a discount on the pool footprint depending on when the application's received. And if not, we can work with you on that. But the pool will require some type of detention system for and the improvements in the rear, really. It's not just the pool footprint itself. It's the deck and the patio.
Mhm.
And again, we'd like the opportunity just to kind of work with you and your civil to address those in conjunction with a consultant that the city would use.
Okay, based on what Clay is saying, is that from the pool is actually less than the existing, at least that is going to that side of the house.
And
so
Mr. Clay is correct, but our ordinance doesn't take that into consideration.
So just because it's a pool, all that runoff has to be mitigated?
That is correct.
And there's a reduce, for the pool area, there's a reduced amount, where I think we only account for 50% of the pool square footage. Is it?
Mhm.
Okay. Carlos, was there anything else that you wanted to further discuss with Mr. Ivanchuk at this time on this?
No, sir.
Okay, good.
We'll go ahead and if the commission does take action, we'll go ahead and coordinate with Mr. Ivanchuk and their civil and our consultant to go over the list.
Good. Any members of the commission have any specific questions for Mr. Ivanchuk? Seeing none, do we have any public comments related to this agenda item?
If there's anybody that would like to speak in regards to 73 Stony Side, again, if you can show your hand, generally located on the lower portion of your Zoom window, somewhat centered right below the visual. And Chairman, I do not see any at this time.
Okay, great. Do I hear a motion?
Chairman,
Go ahead, Carol.
I'd like to make a motion. A
I'll get
motion to approve the petition. Sorry. A motion to approve the petition for a concept stormwater management plan review for a new single-family home at 73 Stony Lane, as presented in the memorandum from the Department of Planning and Community Development dated January 6, 2022, subject to staff conditions noted therein, and the conditions for approval are listed there 1 through 8.
I second.
Motion's been made by Carol Wagner, seconded by Tim Spiegelglass. Carlos, you please call the vote.
Commissioner Rosenberg,
Approved.
Commissioner Spiegelglass,
Approve.
Commissioner Lewis,
Approve.
Commissioner Rich,
Approve.
Commissioner Wagner,
Approved.
Commissioner and Chairman Dragell.
Approved.
And the motion passes unanimously, 6-0. And again, this is the approval of the concept stormwater management plan. The building plans were the building permit, the architectural plans, I should say, were approved in the community design review action taking place on December 16th. So this now authorizes the petitioner to prepare to submit for building permit.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Ivanchuk. Appreciate you being online.
Thank you.
Okay, Chairman.
Okay, Carlos, we'll move on to item C, which is 650 Ashmont Drive. Petition type is a site plan, community design and concept storm water management plan review for new single-family residence. The petitioner is Mr. Ivanchuk with Osnova Architecture. Property owner is Oleg Construction. Carlos?
And Chairman, this is a petition that was deferred for action at the previous December 16th, 2021 meeting. That being said, the commission deferred all three components of the petition: the site plan review, which looks at the internal and external aspects of the development impacting the surrounding properties; the community design review, which is our architectural aesthetics and site planning; and then the concept stormwater management plan review. All three of those were deferred. No action was taken on this petition. Issues that were noted in the staff report, that were discussed at the meeting on the 16th, the commission had concerns regarding the south building elevation, and those have been revised and addressed. And you can see the slide there on the upper right-hand corner illustrating the windows that were added to that. I think they did a good job addressing the commission's concerns on the articulation there. We haven't heard regarding the subdivision approval. I know we did send out contact information to the applicant but we haven't heard if the goal here is just to make sure that they reach out to the subdivision. And their Oak Estates does usually have a review and approval process within their subdivision. Then again, we had in the staff memo some concerns regarding the grading along the south yard, the discharge of the sump pump, the driveway slope, and then also requested, the removal of honeysuckle along the rear of the property, which fronts Ingleton Drive, and placement of a privacy fence along that rear of the property. in there as opposed to waiting for any future occupant to have to do. In this case, the driveway slope, additional information was provided on the driveway slope. The apron of the slope, which is really about the first 12 feet, has been reduced. It is at about 8%, which is what we're trying to strive for to minimize the impact when you get towards the roadway. The driveway slope itself is at about 10%, so that that's pretty reasonable. We did have a discussion with the Public Works Director, and we're more comfortable with this and trying to minimize the slope as much as possible. There is a good elevation difference between the street and this house, and there's a really short or shallow depth on this property as compared to the previous property that we saw earlier on the agenda. The other items, again, are dealing with the concept stormwater management review. They were difficult to try to coordinate throughout, with the holiday interruptions the past 2 weeks. But staff would like to work with the petitioner along with their civil team, with the city's stormwater consultant to kind of discuss these issues and see if there's any opportunities to mitigate or address our concerns. Be glad to answer any specific questions on this. Mr. Ivanchuk also represents the application here for 650 Ashmont Drive.
Good. Anybody on the commission have any questions for Carlos? Okay, seeing none. Mr. Ivanchuk, you've already kind of stated your name and address for the record, so we don't have to repeat that again. Are there any other, do you have anything that you want to discuss or mention?
I just want to add that we did send a query to the subdivision trustees to get their approval, but we have not heard back yet.
How did you make that request?
And we've done a previous, was via email.
Was that sent since the last meeting?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, good. And you hadn't heard any response yet?
Not yet. I have not.
Okay.
I have to look up the exact date.
Mr. Chairman, if you could ask him who he sent it to determine whether that is a trustee representative as well, please.
It was a Mike Ferguson.
And Mr. Ferguson is the representative we traditionally send our information to. Again, with the 2 holidays in between meetings, I can understand. I do know that Oak Estates is always looking to have 50% brick along the front elevation, which they exceed. And secondly, I'm not going to say it's the same house, but the same pattern has been utilized in 2 other homes in the subdivision by you, Mr. Ivanchuk, correct?
Right. This builder has a preference for a particular design, and he has done it before.
Within this subdivision, correct?
Correct.
Were there any issues that the neighborhood brought up with any of those past houses?
Not that I'm aware of.
Me neither. I'm not aware.
Okay. Mr. Ferguson, by chance, isn't an attendee, is he?
No, I don't see him.
I just thought we'd get lucky. All right. Well, good. Any other questions or comments from the commission members for Mr. Ivanchuk? Okay, Carlos, do we have any public comments?
If anybody would like to speak in regards to the petition for 650 Ashmont, if you can show your hands. Again, that's usually located in the lower part of the Zoom window, right in the bottom center. All right, Chairman, that's, I don't see any.
Okay, with no public comments, do I hear a motion?
I can make a motion, Chairman.
Go ahead, Mr. Lewis. I appreciate it.
Motion to approve the petition for site plan, community design, and concept stormwater management plan review for a new single-family home at 73. Oh,
Brian, you muted.
sorry, I may have the wrong one or I have a typo. Let me check.
I do have it up on the screen.
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
For a new single-family home at 650 Ashmont Drive is presented in the memorandum from the Department of Planning and Community Development dated January 6, 2022, subject to any staff conditions noted therein. The conditions, traffic mitigation, cannot connect some pump discharge to roof area storm water pit, work with staff and outside consultant on site improvement plan concerns noted, and removal of honeysuckle and placement of privacy fence both along Ingleton Drive and the standard conditions noted.
Motion's been made by Brian Lewis. Do I hear a second?
Second.
And seconded by Mr. Rosenberg. Carlos, will you please call the vote?
Commissioner Rosenberg,
Approve.
Commissioner Spiegelglass,
Approve.
Commissioner Lewis,
Approved.
Commissioner Rich,
Approved.
Commissioner Wagner,
Approved.
Chairman Jurgel.
Approved.
And just to reiterate, this is the full approval of both the site plan, community design, and concept stormwater management plan review. All right, Chairman.
Good, good. Thank you, Mr. Ivanchuk. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, good, good. And Carlos, before we move on to the discussion items, I think you remember we talked about seeing if we had any other public comments. So, that way they don't have to listen to our full
Absolutely.
discussion.
And if there is anybody that would like to speak on an item that is not scheduled on the agenda, we have two more items for review. One is they're both in a discussion form: the Dealman Road Townhouse Project, and then a subdivision plat along Dolores Avenue. If the chairman has indicated they'll give an opportunity for the public to talk on those items as we go through the review. If there's anyone that would like to speak of regarding some other land use matter, providing you that opportunity right now. At this point, Chairman, I see there are 10 attendees. Most of those I recognize for the next two items.
Good, good. Okay, well, we'll move on to item A of discussion items then. Dealman Road Townhouse Project, preliminary discussion regarding petition to rezone 8 single-family properties along the 1100 block of the west side of Dealman Road to develop 35 attached townhouses. Carlos?
Chairman, real quickly, I'll go over the purposes of the discussion component of the agenda is to give staff an opportunity to introduce items to the commission. In no way are these items being posted for any vote or motion today. These are being brought to your attention as they've been received. Both of these items have been posted on the city's website. Both of these items, the staff has sent out notifications to surrounding property owners extending within 300 feet or even beyond that if it's a cul-de-sac street or so, which we'll describe later in the Dealman Road Townhouse Project component. The goal here is to be able to introduce the commission to the project, talk about process, and answer any questions that the commission members may have as we go through these. Both of these items will be introduced as agenda items at our next meeting on January 20th And I just wanted to note that, Chairman, if it's okay, I'm set to kind of go over the first one.
That'd be great.
All right. So we have received a petition to rezone and redevelop the property right across from the city center on Dealman Road. That's just north of Jiffy Lube on the western side. It's a 2.8 acre site. The petitioner's looking to put 35 townhouse units on the site grounds that would extend from the back end of the commercial property zoned and utilized by Jiffy Lube all the way to the boundaries of the Castle Gate Villas development in there, as illustrated in on the screenshot here. And you can see a short perspective here with Dealman Road, of course, being on the right-hand side, and then the townhouse projects along the left.
Carlos, I have a quick question on that.
Absolutely.
The photo or the rendering, those almost look like detached townhouses, but I believe these are all attached, right?
Correct, because you would be seeing a view of the individual row of houses. So that looks like a front along here,
Yeah.
then along here, and then along here. So on the street side, yes, it looks, if you're looking at them in a full two-dimensional elevation, they look like an individual house, but they're really long and they would have 5 units along there. Does that make sense?
It does. I guess I'm just, I feel like I'm looking at, if you move your cursor to the right, I see like side windows.
Along this, right here?
Yeah.
Yeah. And those would be the sides.
Oh, I see. I see. I understand now. Sorry, I was thinking this went down the row of each building or each side. Never mind. I understand now.
So I'm going to go through, this has been submitted. They are posted on our website. We have sent out notifications. I'm going to talk about the process and why we're looking at this. What is the city's overall vision, and what role the commission plays in that review. If you go back to 2006, the commission adopted our comprehensive plan with the main component about creating a dynamic sense of place. And in the dynamic sense of place, identified the area northwest of Dealman and Olive Boulevard as the city center district, and looked for redevelopment opportunities to increase density and create somewhat of a town center within that area. You can see in the diagrams that are part of the 2006 plan in there, and then the layout of the building types and protocols that were kind of encouraged as part of creating a dynamic sense of place. So when you look at this illustration here on the right-hand side, this represents the Walgreens. This now represents the new city facilities. This is McDonald's. This is the 2 funeral complexes on this side. And there, this is where Jiffy Lube would be, all the way to where now the Oliver is located in. And again, this is just the general vision as part of the 2006 strategic plan or comprehensive plan. Through that vision, in 2014, the city had looked at relocating its city facilities off of Olive Boulevard. As you can see, the old location here, on Olive and Freese, and relocating the government center to Dealman Road right behind the Walgreens complex. The purpose of that was, again, to facilitate the city's vision of creating a city center in this area along the north side of Olive, just west of Dealman, and also to address some issues that we were having right off of Dealman. We had several rental properties that were starting to be assembled on Dealman Road. We had a couple of properties that were less than 50 feet, which is the minimum width that's authorized for single family use within the area. And then we had several areas where we had multiple violations that were noted for either operating a business or derelict properties in there. Through that process, the city chose to redevelop the city center, of course, right behind Walgreens. in there, and also bought a property across the street when it came available, in the hopes of trying to generate or spur reinvestment into the community and deter any further decrease in values. You see the City Hall project here and the Oliver development that is occurring here. And again, trying to address some of the issues that we were having on the west side of Dealman. This project kind of is an assemblage of that area. Again, the city was a property owner within one of these properties in there. The rest have been kind of market driven by the developer, have been purchased or put under contract. And the proposed development is to put the 35 attached townhomes within that 2.5 acre area, as illustrated here. So what happens and what are the next steps? This item will be formally introduced to the commission on January 20th. So on January 20th, the commission by code, section 400-1090, has 120 days to forward a recommendation to the city council. The commission is solely a recommending body in this review, and the council will have final say on whether a rezoning would be granted and any additional special permits would be warranted for the development. Generally, the council has 2 readings when it approves or authorizes the development, and within one of those meetings holds a public hearing. In addition to that, all the commission meetings are open to the public, and traditionally, the commission has authorized or permitted public comments on this as this goes through its process. There are also other jurisdictions that are involved in the review. Dealman, north of Olive, is a county thoroughfare and is under the jurisdiction of the St. Louis County Highways and Traffic, and they will be taking a look at this development. Metropolitan Sewer District also has jurisdiction over stormwater and wastewater impacts of this development, and they will be reviewing those. Those 2 jurisdictions will be doing their reviews in conjunction with the commission and the council's reviews. And then there's the other utility or public corporations that are involved, like gas, electric, cable, and those things. Most of those are just will be providing. The other 2, the Metropolitan Sewer District, St. Louis County, actually has some review process in there because they are using public infrastructure to facilitate development. For the commission, the 2006 comprehensive plan kind of guides our review process. And of course, the comprehensive plan consists of 4 pillars. Of reviewing developments in terms of their community development, their economic development, their transportation connections, and their open spaces. So as we go through this development, we'll have a discussion of each of these 4 pillars. Community development deals with identity, impacts to adjacent properties, and how it blends in with the surrounding neighborhoods. Economic development, of course, deals with the investment, the opportunities to stabilize areas and such. Transportation connections deal both not just vehicles, but also with pedestrian connections and opportunities for pathways and integrating neighborhoods with the rest of the community or with Olive Boulevard. Open spaces are open spaces, not both public and private. The spaces that are cultivated along the sidewalks, right-of-ways, and even those between the buildings themselves, and also with the transition that's provided to adjacent properties. This development will require some rezoning. Rezoning could be through the city center zoning district, which was specifically adopted for this area to facilitate the 2006 comprehensive plan's vision for the community center. It could be done through the COR district, which is the commercial office retail district, which the property immediately to the south is zoned. That's the Jiffy parcel. It could look at a planned attached or attached single family residential district that's similar to what Castlegate Villas has used or utilized for zoning. And then there's also a planned residential office district One we rarely use, and I don't see us pursuing this option, but that's how the Bonham Village was zoned and developed. Other aspects and codes that will be impacted here, are, of course, are community design standards under Chapter 428, as this is part of the overlay district. So there are specific standards regarding architecture, materials, signage, streetscape, landscaping, and buffering. And then our subdivision regulations, as all these properties that will be assembled, they'll be combined and then redeveloped and possibly replatted through the process to be individual parcels, similar to the property to the north, the Castlegate Villas. Again, when we go through our comprehensive plan and make the assessment of the 4 pillars, I want to stress, community development deals with the buffering and transitions that will take place with the single-family homes to the west, the attached homes to the north. It deals with the economic development impact that a development has, both in terms of improving the corridor, both on Dealman and on Olive, stabilizing neighborhoods and improving values. It deals with the transportation connections you see here in these arrows, not just on the roadway itself, but through sidewalks, through opportunities for paths, through connections to other neighborhoods. And it deals with open spaces, again, improvements along the sidewalk and streetscape, the private improvements between the individual units, and the buffering, again, comes back into play as part of the open spaces. At this point, Chairman, again, this item will be introduced at our next commission meeting. Be glad to answer any specific questions or inquiries on that. And we do have a representative for the development, and that's all I have.
Good. Are there any questions for the commission members for Carlos, kind of going over the process and the procedures? Okay, Carlos, seeing none. Carlos, what do you think the rezoning is going to be? I mean, when is that determined?
We would be recommending the city center district. The sole purpose for the creation of the city center district, which was done, I believe we're on our 2nd year with that, was to facilitate the city center consistent with the comprehensive plan. And we look at this area slowly being developed in there. It might require some amendments to the city center district to ensure that there's full compliance, or there might be changes in the development to ensure that they're in compliance with the current city center in there. So
Okay,
that would be the first and foremost, I think, the avenue that we would urge the commission to consider.
Very good. Very good. All right, Carlos, maybe we can hear from the developer. That'd be great.
Mr. Cohen, I'm going to promote you to a panelist. And if you can unmute and have your video on, and then just state your name and address.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Yeah, hold on 1 second. Okay, my name is Doug Cohen. I own Douglas Properties. And we're very excited about the potential to do this project. It's been about 3 years in the plans of starting and stopping from the beginnings, middle, and maybe one day the end of COVID. I have what I believe is an all-star team of my architect and engineer that will take shape and be involved in presentations, as they come along. I didn't feel there was a need for them today. But like I said, we're extremely excited about this. We've got some great press from the Post-Dispatch. My phone has been ringing off the hook. And it's going to be quite quite an accomplishment to get this done and really introduce the Olivet market to this type of product and a price range for a nice new townhouse that I think is going to, believe it or not, be a sweet spot for the market.
Doug, what is the approximate price range at this point? I know things are changing, so you can't tell for sure, but what do you
What
think?
we're anticipating is, as you kind of familiarize with the site, we have 7 buildings, 5 units each. So each building has, of course, 2 end units. And the end units have 3 elevations of windows and also elevator options, which will drive the price up into the middle sixes. The interior units, the B, C, and D units, will start at right around 600. And so we're in the upper 2s per foot, which is well within the market. I've kind of been watching another project in town, which I call an inferior quality and an inferior location of a job that is ongoing on Highway 40 near Spady. It overlooks the highway. And these are similar price points as what they've done over there. And these aesthetically, and I think we can all agree location-wise, will blow those away. One thing that's interesting, and I think it was brought up, is that as you're driving down Dealman Road, so the furthest east units of each building, the front doors face east, and then the other doors face either north or south. So those units that front Dealman Road really stand out. And you see that big picture window right there. I don't know if you can put your cursor on what I'm talking about, Carlos, but to the left of there. Yeah, great. Yeah, that's a big. So what you're looking at here is the southern view. So there's going to be kind of a U-shaped entrance into the building. Right behind the Jiffy Lube will be the, of course, southern entrance, and then it loops around all the way to the north, and we'll have feeders to get down into the alleys and then into the garages, and then we'll release just in front of the Castlegate Villas as it exits back out to Dealman Road. So we'll be looking to use some high quality products here, a black and white facade with a combination of brick and siding. And nice retainage there in the front to give it a nice presence. There's a very nice landscape package. And I don't know, I'm free to answer any questions that y'all have for sure.
Does any commission members have any specific questions for Mr. Cohen?
So the garage, excuse me, Tim Spielglass, those are lower level garages. Are those dual garages on each unit?
Everybody has their own 2-car garage. Private 2-car
Below
garage.
the house, each individual condo or townhouse that's below it. Is that correct?
Yeah, so it's a 3-story unit. You got the garage. There'll be some optional finish in that lower level once you get in the garage. And then you have the 2 stories above. One of the things that we strived for, like I kind of keep comparing this to that Spady Road project, is we're making sure that when you walk into these units from the front door, you're in the money shot, you're in the foyer, you're in the kitchen, you're in the living room. Where some of these other developments that are like this, for some reason, what they did is they had the front door walking into the basement. So the first thing you're hitting is a stairway to go up to the kitchen and the main floor, and then another stairway going up to the bedrooms. So this is a more traditional approach. So the front door opens up right into your main living area.
Thank you.
Any other commission members have any questions?
I'm not a commission member, but I do have a question.
Go ahead, Missy.
Mr. Cohen, bedrooms, are they going to be varied? I'm really just kind of looking at this for the first time on page whatever that shows many of the multi-units, but I'd rather just hear it from you.
So all the bedrooms are up on the second floor, 3 bedrooms and 2 full baths.
In each one,
Yeah, they're all 3 bedroom,
Okay.
2 bath on the second floor, and there's a powder room on the main floor, and then we get into that option for the lower level if they want a full bath and some finish down there.
Okay.
So we'll be, catering to the master suite, of course, so that there can be a nice walk-in closet, a nice double vanity master suite with a separate tub and shower. I think there's a separate tub.
You're fitting for families versus empty nesters is kind of what I
Not
was.
really. This is,
No?
I mean, I think we're gonna see from 23 to 83, truthfully. You got an elevator option, you got the people that are gonna be just here for the summer. You got families trying to take advantage of the school district. We are gonna have it from, I really am predicting 23 to 83 is my magic number. And then the one thing that we kind of are discovering is the building that's on the farthest north. Those are actually, that's going to be the premier building. It might even be 2, but I kind of think it's just going to be 1, where the lower level is going to have somewhat of a walkout as well. So we're able to get on that north side. The lower level is going to have, at the worst case scenario, some very big picture windows and potentially a walkout. So that north side, in my opinion, will be the premier building.
But then there'll be some pretty high, a lot of steps to climb up to it. The first
Maybe
floor.
next year, maybe 4 steps. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
On the 20th, when we represent to the committee, I think we'll have greater detail of what that will be on that north side.
Carlos, if we don't have any more comments, go ahead, Jody. I'm sorry.
Doug, is there going to be any additional parking options? Because it looks like there's not going to be very much parking unless you're in front of the garage.
Right. That's generally how these are done. So the sorry. You have the 2-car parking, and then when the guests come, they are really parking up against the garage door.
Thank you.
It's a good point, Jody. Out of curiosity, and I don't know the answer to this, but are there any requirements for ADA compliance with these? Because especially with seeing a lot of stairs, I know you got the elevators in select units.
I'm not sure what the rule of thumb is there. The architect would be better to answer that. If a certain number of units have to have a certain type of ADA compliant. I've kind of run into that in the past, but that was when they were all under one roof. I'm not sure if that comes into play here, but we're going to be building these. It's not like I'm going to be building all 35 and then waiting for the phone to ring. So, I mean, I've actually had calls last week about that exact question. And the answer is that we would be able to completely customize a unit to a person's standards and specs if it comes to a handicap situation. We'll be putting out what I'm anticipating 3 different design packages to keep it fairly simple. But then if someone comes in with a unique situation of a handicap, then 100% we would be able to accommodate that with a personal touch.
Good.
Chairman.
Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, on Jody's comment, I am kind of curious about the parking because I'm thinking if anyone were to have a gathering of any kind, maybe they're parking at that point at the city center or the city hall or Walgreens or something. Wasn't sure if that's an issue or if it can be addressed, but I can see that being a challenge because if you need more than 2 cars, that becomes an immediate thing. I'm curious if that's been thought of as an approach.
Well, like I said, the guest parking, if you look at where that deck is, everybody has their own deck and there's 100% room for 2 cars because that deck is 2-car garage wide. So getting an extra 2 cars is not a problem. The key to this development, like any of these types of developments when the ground is so darn expensive, is density. So the only way to make this project work financially is with this type of density. It's not like there's a way to erase a building and have a parking lot. This is definitely more urban living. I think this is kind of what the city has planned in the last 15 years from that 06 development, and to create a little bit more of an urban atmosphere. And, if it, I hate to say it, but I wouldn't be surprised if some guests an extra car might park across the street from 7 to 9 o'clock or something like that to have a dinner party or something. Who knows? I don't know. But 2-car parking plus 2-car guest parking is the norm with this type of development.
Carlos, I'm curious and I understand what you're saying in terms of density and in terms of urban, but I think about like when we're in a city, there's street parking, and I don't imagine on Dealman there's any street parking, Carlos, and then the neighborhood to the north of that, is that gated or is that allowed to park there if people needed to walk?
It is a public street. I'm sure we would hear concerns if cars that were not identifiable were parked there, but it is public, so there are no restrictions in there. Now, I believe that on the county road, I'm not sure there are any signs, but I've never seen cars parked on the road itself on Dealman.
How much room do we have on the west side between the 2 lanes of traffic versus the neighboring residents?
I don't know what that dimension is, but it's if your question is related to putting cars there, I don't think that's the answer, because that has to be we like to keep that as a 2-way thoroughfare.
No, I just wasn't sure if you could add, let's say, another like parallel parking over there. But it doesn't look like you have the space.
I mean, I don't know. I think something like that would be coming up on the next agenda to see how close we can push that hard surface to the property line. It's a good point. If we were able to push that, solid surface all the way to the property line, that might create kind of a little bit of easing of some of the burden that we're talking about.
But we lose that buffer that we need too. So,
or it could be, a sporadic buffer. You can always cut in and maybe make a little negotiation so that it's not 100% of a buffer. Maybe it's sporadic.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, to look at, because I envision there would be challenges. I imagine City Hall as well as Walgreens or the neighboring streets would be unhappy. But in Carlos, I can't think of another complex that has this type of situation. And I understand the concern and the density. I get it. I'm just trying to think of anything else in Olivet that is similar to this.
Oh, there's 100%. I would think that there's nothing in Olivet like this. Not that I'm aware of that would have this type of parking demand. You see a lot of this in the West End because the architect that we're using is Core Tenor Architecture, and I've used them for other condominium projects in the last 25 years. And they have their thumbprint on a lot of these, especially when you see these new ones that are in Kirkwood that are similar to this in high density, the West End, downtown, heart of Clayton. So once Tyler gets a hold of this and comes to the meeting or Zooms, whatever, then he'll be able to rifle off ideas and comparisons pretty easily.
Good, good. Okay, Carlos. Well, any other questions or comments from the commission members?
Mr. Rosenberg has his hand.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Rosenberg.
Thank you, Commissioner. So I have just two quick questions here. So just looking at this site plan, I see you've got the trash receptacles along the west here. So I guess let's say a garbage truck comes in, they just pull next to it, lift up. Are these like full dumpster size, or like a typical residential type of trash receptacle? What are we going to be looking at here?
Oh, I'm sure they're not big old, huge dumpsters. Carlos, can you pull up that site plan that he's referring to?
Sure.
Because, I mean, if it's like what you see going down the residential streets, comes with the sidearm, picks it up, dumps it in. But if it's like a big dumpster, it's going to have to, like,
Pull into the between the buildings.
on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
those
wouldn't be surprised if they use a smaller truck for this type of development. And again, that would be a good question, because Tyler would have more experience in how they do this in place, the trash bins and such.
Okay, so that was one question. And to that, and this is kind of piggybacking on that, do we know if there's enough of a turning radius for a large garbage recyclable truck or even a moving truck back here? It looks pretty tight. on
Or
that.
fire engine.
Well, those will be watched closely, that's for sure. And there is certain guidelines that the architect has that he dedicates these radiuses to certain codes. So I think
Okay.
my answer would be kind of the same. Let's let the architect answer that next time around.
Okay. Yeah, and then just another kind of like business related question. How many of these do you need to have sold before you break ground on them? And like, let's say, you sell, somebody wants one in building 1 and somebody wants one in building 7, are you like, okay, well, no, too bad, you got to buy one in building 1 so we can get.
Good question. Very good question. We've designed the engineering such that we've done as much as we can to balance the site, which means that we're trying to stay away from having truckload of dirt removed from the site over and over, which gets very expensive. In balancing the site, the engineers have come up with a design that all of the 7 foundations would be put in right away. That will be part of what we're calling phase 1, is all of the MSD improvements, all of the hardscape for the most part, but for sure all of the foundations, because the foundations, in order to balance the site, will also act as retainage. And then based on demand, I wouldn't build, if someone says building number 1, I want 1A, and then the next guy says I want number 4A, I would say no, and my bank won't allow that. So I have the financing to do all of phase 1, which is all the infrastructure, all of the foundations, and then finish one building completely without having one sale. That makes sense.
Okay, so just to get started, you don't have to have any.
I don't have to have any pre-sold
Okay.
to do what I just said.
Gotcha.
Do all the site improvements, do all 7 foundations, and take one building to completion.
Cool. Okay.
One building as in 1 unit, or one building as in 5 units?
5 units.
Okay. And are the roofs independent, or are they connected?
They're connected. You can see there's gonna be like a little bit of a step up as you go further back. So it's not like a flat roof. but they
So
are
from
all
a,
connected.
from a homeowner insurance perspective, is this condo insurance? And the
There will be
association
a-
has insurance or?
There's these will be townhouses where you will own the ground. And then you have a condo fee, and we're anticipating $300 a month to cover all of the maintenance. And then the owners, all they would be, the owners, all they would be getting would be like a renter's insurance for their contents and personal belongings.
So the condo fee would include roof coverage.
Correct. There's a problem
you.
with building number 1, and building 7 participates in that repair. So all for one.
One big happy family.
Yeah.
All right, Carlos, any other questions or comments?
I do know I do have some public that would like to speak.
That would be great.
Okay. All right. First person, Mr. Ziegel. I'm going to transfer you to panelists. Again, if you can unmute your mic, also allow your video, and then state your name and address.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Eric Ziegel, 1144 Indian Trails Drive. I'm the trustee for the Indian Trails subdivision directly to the west of the proposed townhouse project. And Mr. Kalina was on earlier, and the two of us currently representing Indian Trails subdivision. And we realized there will be a larger public meeting in a couple of weeks. But we do have some concerns at the outset on all three of the issues already raised. Height, the buffer space is already talked about, and certainly the density. And as Mr. Rosenberg pointed out, that I guess alleyway to the back and to the west in our backyards, essentially creating what as I would say, would not be sporadic buffering, but would include the entire buffering as required, because that there really is no space back there for that. And we're talking roughly 70 plus cars on a daily basis, in addition to what the committee had already talked about, some additional guests or additional units and residents with additional cars. So Carlos, we will defer to you and to the Indian Trail subdivision directly to the west, and in terms of our preparation for the public meeting. For time's sake, I'm not sure how much you want us to get into details right now tonight. Carlos.
No, and I'll be fine to coordinate information or share information as it comes in. And most of that will be posted on the city's website as soon as we receive it too. And then we can schedule some time if you have questions regarding the process and prior to the 20th.
Certainly. Okay, yeah, we do have some questions. I'm not sure if you would expect us to prepare something formal and a written comments, or, like we've just talked about with all three of those: height, buffer, density, and that boundary wall to the back as well. And as Mr. Rosenberg stated, any trash pickup. We're talking about a lot of movement already. As it stands, the traffic on Dealman I can hear pretty much on a fairly frequent basis. Now we're talking about adding 70 cars directly behind us, in addition to the transportation, as you talked about, at the Oliver, and then further down to the east, the 170 units proposed, just to the east of where Sugar Fire and the Starbucks. We're sandwiched in between pushing 200 plus units now, and Dealman as the main thoroughfare between Olive and Page gets a lot of traffic.
I think some written comments would be great, and
Okay.
That would be very helpful. So we can make sure we can go through all that.
Okay. Appreciate it.
Good.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, I had to walk away. I had a barking dog.
Know how that goes.
Right. Well, thank you for your comments. I appreciate it.
Certainly, thank you. We'll see you on the 20th.
Good, good.
If there is anybody else that would like to speak in regards to this item, Mr. Kalina, I'm going to transfer you over now to panelist. And again, Mr. Kalina, if you can have your mic unmuted and your video accessible, state your name and address.
Can you see and or hear me?
We can hear you.
I don't know. Again, I'm not familiar. This is saying start video. And when I say, okay, start video, it doesn't start video. Let me try video.
On the lower left-hand corner of your Zoom window, you should have.
There's a mute and there's a start video. When I click on start video, it's checked at FaceTime HD camera. Do I want to go with video settings? Sorry, this is not a familiar Zoom for me.
Don't worry, we'll be
You should
patient.
be okay.
Yes, you do want to go with video settings. Try that.
Okay. And there I am in the settings. I can see me, but nobody else can, huh?
Not right now. Where are you just, when you're on the front screen where you have the, start video, are you just clicking on the arrow in the upper right-hand corner of that icon, or are you actually clicking in the middle of that icon?
Are you talking about bottom left start video?
Yes.
I click on the video.
There we go.
There you go.
Oh,
There you
bingo.
go.
Hello. Yeah. Start video. Hi, everybody. How are you all doing?
Good, good.
I appreciate this discussion, and
Sir,
for obvious reasons, we on Indian Trails.
Sir, I'm going to interrupt you real quick, and I apologize, but
no
if
problem.
you don't mind, you've already stated your name.
Oh, no problem.
But if you could
I'm sorry.
State your name and address for the record.
I was going there. Alan M. Kalina, 1120 Indian Trails. And it's the 1120 address. The only owners of this house ever are my family. My folks bought this house when it was a display home for Indian Trails back in the middle of 1961. Nobody else but us has ever lived here. Eric did an excellent job of covering the three categories of concern that we have. And I'm going to cut right to the chase and point out something that several of you have already questioned, and it's about the density of this project. There's too much going on here and too little footprint for it to properly happen. There is not enough parking. There's not enough access. Talking about it being 2 stories when in very real terms, depending upon the slope of the terrain and how that's going to ultimately end up being addressed, with the high point to the north, the low part, way low, comparatively speaking, behind Jiffy Lube. Any number of these sound to me like they are, for all intents and purposes, going to be 3-story, because the garages are not going to be very subterranean at all. The pushing, the concern about the buffer between the back line and our homes is a very real thing. Hearing discussion from Mr. Cohn about the idea of pushing the envelope into the easement and coming closer to my backyard, to our backyards, obviously is something that, we don't want to hear about. We're frankly not very comfortable with these large looming buildings directly behind our property. There is not enough parking there, as you pointed out. There is no street parking. This is not an urban setting as much as that would be interesting and hip in an urban setting. Urban settings come with street parking. there's no street parking here. Nobody's going to be able to park on Dealman. I'll go one step further in illustrating that. The sign that Mr. Cohn and his folks recently put up behind my house to promote this development, which frankly is too small to read, is causing cars to literally dead stop in the middle of Dealman to try and read the signs, and is an accident waiting to happen. I don't know if anybody else has noticed that, but I can just look out my patio door and see cars stopping there in the middle of the street. There's no way to park cars in Dealman safely. It's not a 4-lane wide street. It's a pretty tight 2-lane street, one going each way.
Sir, if
So
you don't
there's-
mind wrapping it
Yeah.
up a little bit, that'd be great, because we got to go through a bunch of other comments.
Okay, and so bottom line is we do have concerns, and we will definitely come back and do whatever we can do in working with you, and appreciate your good patience with us on the meeting on the 20th.
Good. Thank you for your comments.
Okay, thank you all for your care.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Carlos.
Carlos, you're muted right now, just in case you didn't know that.
Yes, sir. There we go. Thank you, Mr. Kalina. If there's anybody else that would like to speak in regards to this discussion item, if you can show your hand, it's located in the lower portion of the Zoom window, right in the center. And Chairman, I see none. Again, this item will be brought forward to the commission for beginning the review process at its meeting on January 20th, 2022. A web page has been created specifically for this project to provide information as it is received in there. We always urge people to take a look, or more preferably is to sign up on the city's website to receive alerts. You can be very selective with the alert types that you receive. Agendas are posted the Friday prior to the scheduled meeting. You can, through our website, authorize just to receive PCDC agendas alerts. If not, again, check our website. We try to be as descriptive as possible, and we utilize our electronic resources as best as possible to make sure our residents are fully informed. And there, so this will be again a beginning of a process. It's a well-defined process for review, and that's all I have, Chairman. If there's any other questions.
I don't believe so. The only thing I would ask Doug, if you don't mind producing some cross sections, so we can kind of see the impact between the height of these buildings, versus the neighbors, and kind of how it would impact, especially with the buffer fence being shown there as well. That would be greatly appreciated. Doug, I'm not sure if you're made a comment there or not, but you're muted. But
I'll relay that to the architect so he's prepared on the 20th.
Good. Thank you. Okay. That being said, I think we'll move on to the next item. Appreciate it, Mr. Cohen.
Chairman, we have a proposed subdivision on Dolores Avenue at the terminus of the street on the south end. Dolores is just west of Price Crossing. Its access is only through Olive Boulevard, and it does have a sister street, Kenneth Avenue, that bisects and connects it perpendicularly in there. There are two subdivisions within this general area, Olivet Terrace, and then a G.W. Bernice Estates in there. The property that's being looked at is at the very south end of Dolores Avenue. It is these two properties. One is improved and one is unimproved. Addresses 1004 and 1014 Dolores Avenue. 1004 was originally, I believe it was 3 properties that got combined, got rebuilt, as you see here on the improvements. 1014, to the best of my knowledge, is an existing parcel in there. Most of the properties along Dolores Avenue have a 50-foot width in there. In our zoning code for the SR district, there is a section in there that allows what is termed as a variation in lot size standard. And what that allows, that in an existing subdivision in which properties are smaller than the SR district minimums, the SR district minimum is 15,000 square feet, 100-foot width, 150-foot depth. But in existing subdivisions, you are allowed to subdivide property if you go through a calculation of the properties within that subdivision and you are equal to the average or exceed the average in each lot, each width of those properties within that subdivision. So this allows areas like in Hilltop, Chevy Chase, Cherry Tree Harvest to subdivide a property within the middle of the property if that property would resemble or reflect the surrounding properties in area and width and depth in there. And a larger piece of area in which the properties exceed the SR district standard is not permitted. The minimum would be what is in there. That being said, there is a proposal to subdivide these 2 properties, 1014 and 1004 Dolores Avenue, and develop it into 3 lots. And I'll go through that here. And these will be formally submitted as a preliminary subdivision plat at your next meeting. They would create two parcels to the south, and you can kind of see in here the underlayment of the existing home, and then a parcel just south of the channel, and then it extends up north. Reason we're bringing this to the commission's attention is because there's a couple of things. One is the understanding of the variation in lot size. Again, the petitioner is authorized to get dimensional information from surrounding properties, utilize a calculation within our code that creates an average area and an average width, and as long as their properties can equal or exceed that width and area, they're permitted to subdivide the properties in there. And in this case, without any issues, there's plenty of area. The width becomes a very tight area in there only for the purposes because of the creek here. Now, because there is a creek here, and I kind of highlighted that in blue, it is a creek that has a gabion wall system. It's not a natural creek. This property would be utilizing the amendment that was proposed to or acted on by the commission at their December 16th meeting, seeking a variation to remove the undisturbed natural vegetative buffer. Since the creek is no longer natural, it's been altered, and it consists of a gabion wall system that's fenced and closed. They're seeking to remove the stream buffer in there and just provide the 25-foot setback to help mediate stormwater as it enters to that creek area and such. So they would provide a 25-foot setback along that creek edge, but not the buffer to protect the bank of the creek, because it's no longer a natural bank in there. That variation would have to be authorized by the commission. For the most part, it looks like they can make the lot areas, the lot widths all work. They've laid out what homes footprints would resemble along there. Another thing that we've discussed is that there's a piece of property on the south side of the creek that belongs to the property on the north side of the creek. They will have property on the north side of the creek that abuts the person to the north side of the creek and not directly in there. So they've, and at staff's request, they've engaged with the property owner to the north to try to see if there could be some form of swap. The last thing we would want to create, though the condition already exists. So if somebody was in this property and they had to cut the grass, they would have to go out into the street, around the creek, and then get to that. Same thing happens to this property owner. They actually have a little pedestrian bridge back here in order to maintain this little back corner of their property in there. We would like to take advantage of the subdivision process and hopefully have the property owner and the developer work to exchange those two pieces of property. For the most part, that's been a pretty cooperative discussion. However, there's always caveats in the process. The owner on the north end, of course, isn't the sole owner because they probably have a mortgage still laid out on the property. So it gets a little bit more complex as we try to work to resolve those issues. However, the developer is willing to try to facilitate that as best we can in that process. The other aspects of it would be to try to do a boundary adjustment between those properties after the fact. And we hope we can try to avoid that. The area has been looked at by our Public Works Director, our Fire Department, to ensure that adequate access and turnaround movement could be provided. They will be providing an expanded turnaround area at the terminus of Dolores Avenue. There's another house far towards here on the left, further down west in there, and the fire department has had issues in trying to do the turning movement along this area. With this improvement, that driveway and an expansion along here, they'll be able to facilitate that. At this point, given the volume of pedestrian traffic on the street and volumes of vehicles, we don't see a need to utilize any sidewalks along here. The street's pretty wide and pretty accommodating in there, and there is a pathway that kind of leads back down here to Villa Park. So this provides an opportunity for people to use Dolores Avenue, get through this path or driveway and down to Villa Park, just southwest of this site. So again, this will come before you in our next meeting as a preliminary subdivision plat. I wanted to just kind of point out, some of the requests because it will require a review of the variation for the stream buffer bank. And then also questions regarding, the bisecting of these properties here by the creek and opportunities, if available, to have the developer and the property owner kind of switch ownership on those and just make it a little cleaner. Be glad to answer any specific questions. Not looking for any action on this at this time. Again, the footprints that are shown are just general. These are not the review or approval of the houses. Those will come in after the property is subdivided.
Any commission members have any questions or comments for Carlos? Brian, did you see your hand raised? No. Okay. All right. Did someone say something? Carlos, do we have any public comments related to this?
Yes, I do have a representative of the petitioner is here along with
oh, good.
With them. Mr. Schindler, I'm going to promote you to panelist just to introduce you to the commission. If you can have your mic unmuted and your video accessible, would be greatly appreciated. State your name and address. And then also, if there's anybody else you'd like to include in there, I know Mr. Tipton's on. I can transfer him over to.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. We can't see you, but we can hear you.
I'm having the same problems the other gentleman had. Let's see here. Start video. Let's try that. There we go.
All right. Mr. Schindler, do you want me to bring Kevin over or?
No, that's okay. I think that's all right. But Carlos, thank you. Commissioners, thank you. I appreciate your time this evening. I think Carlos did a good job explaining what kind of what we're looking to do. I've owned this property since June of last year, and been working with Carlos and staff to, really come up with, like he said, look at the surrounding properties. And if you look at it, of the there 10 of the 13 or 50-foot wide lots, there's 2 that I'm going to call 60-foot wide lots, and then there's one down Test that was originally 2 50-foot lots that have been combined. But I think, again, we've worked hard with Carlos and staff to come up with a plan that meets the city's regulations and ordinances. And really the last couple months been trying to figure out if there's a good way to, from a planning standpoint, a land planning standpoint, I think the city would like to figure out a way to swap that ground if it's possible. And I'm certainly happy to do that and to work with the neighbor to the north. She's been great. And like Carlos said, she does have a mortgage, so it throws a little bit more of a wrinkle in things to get their approvals. But here to answer any questions you have, and again, appreciate your time.
Okay, good. Thank you for being a part of this. Any commission members have any comments or questions for Mr. Schindler? Not seeing any at this point in time, so appreciate your hard work and working with Carlos on this.
Thank you very much.
Carlos, do we have any public comments related to this agenda item?
I'm not familiar with anybody that is still on that would be associated with this project, but if you would like to speak before the commission, just show your hand. Right, Chairman, I see none. There are still two individuals here, and I don't know if they have any public comments just in general, but I'll let you decide at that point if you want to entertain any general comments.
Yeah, let's finish this, and if we don't have any other comments at this time, I think we'll move on to the agenda. So we appreciate Mr. Schindler you coming on and presenting this, and we look forward to the next meeting.
Thank you again.
Okay, Carlos. So I guess we might as well open it up. We're moving into other business, and I don't believe we have any meeting minutes today.
No, sir.
So we might as well, before we get to the reports, if there's any public comments, we might as well ask for that.
All right. Mr. Koenig or Mr. Crum, if there's any comments you'd like to make before the commission, just show your hand. I'll transfer you over. All right, here we go. 1 second. All right, I'm going to transfer David Crum, promote you to panelist. Mr. Crum, you're going to be transferred over as a panelist. At that point, if you can unmute your mic and turn on your video, it'd be greatly appreciated. State your name and address for the record, and then forward your comments.
My name is David Crum. I am a resident of Olivet at the 1123 Basswood Lane. And I own the Olive Office Park development, which includes Alzheimer's, the south side of Olive, just east of Dealman. And we have a large back area that has the potential to be developed as townhouses, and we'll be researching that and talking with the neighbors in an open two-way discussion manner. And I just wanted to introduce myself, and we'll be hopefully get on the agenda at some near future time.
Good. Well, I appreciate you making some comments and introducing yourself. So thank you.
Okay,
Good, good. Thank you, sir. Okay, Carlos. Do we have any other public comments?
If anybody else would like to speak before the commission, again, if you can just show your hand, I'll transfer you over. And Chairman, at this point, I see none. Everybody else I have accounted for.
Okay, good, good. Well, then we'll move on to reports. Carlos?
Chairman, just reiterate, well, first, Happy New Year to everyone. It's unfortunate, given the current spread of the pandemic situation. We have moved back to Zoom meetings. The council will be also doing their meetings via Zoom, at least for the month of January. I'm not sure about January 28th meeting yet. And there, our
Carlos?
next schedule. Yes.
Usually you have kind of a list that's presented. I'm not sure if you have that today or not, but right now we just have everybody's pictures here.
Bear with me 1 second. Thank you, sir.
You didn't lose a thing in this Zoom, Commissioner. You didn't lose a thing.
So anyway, so our next scheduled meeting will be on January 20th. You've already been introduced to two of the agenda items that will be on for formal review. We also have a new single family home proposed. This will be the second one on Birdie Lane. That will be for community design review. Don't anticipate any other applications yet, but if something does come in towards the end, we'll try to facilitate them and get them in, depending on the extent of the modifications. Council meetings are scheduled for the 10th and the 11th and the 25th, I believe, at the council, at the next two council meetings. The text amendment recommendations that the commission acted on December 16th, which is the amendment to the coverage for pools and the amendment to the stream buffer will be forwarded to the council. They'll start their first reading again on January 11th, and then they'll have a public hearing on the 25th, and then consider action for that. Outside of that, the list I have up has we had an updated in there. We'll be glad to answer any questions or comments in there, and that's all I have for this go around. If there's any questions regarding the current developments, because there's still a lot of activity going on, but it's pretty visible now. So
it's very exciting. It's good. It's good.
Carlos, can I ask a quick question?
Absolutely.
So I've heard it and I've seen it now on the Birdie Lane and then the tire place, the sidewalks. I know we tried to address it before, but with these new developments coming up on there, is there a way for us to say that you can only have these sidewalks tore up for so long, or you have to mitigate it, build a bridge across it, or put steel plates or something?
Yeah, absolutely. There are lessons learned in there. The sidewalks along Birdie Lane should be poured next week, weather pending, of course. But we've been well made aware of in there, and it's actually a good thing because the commission's been strong advocates of creating pedestrian opportunities along our corridors, and we're finding out how popular they are now. And there. So for Birdie Lane, the Public Works Director has been on them to do so. It was unfortunate that in the past week, Spire did some work across the street for this development, and then both sidewalk sides were closed in there. And of course, we had school starting, this week. So we did get a couple of calls regarding that, but that should be up and running. Again, hopefully by next week, weather pending. They'll do the apron pour there at Birdie Lane, For Firestone, the same thing. We've been trying to work with them to make sure that they have an accessible pathway. And there they did pour the apron a week and a half ago. There wasn't much activity this week, but we hope we can get that sidewalk segment to the apron up and running or paved, poured early next week also. That being said, going forward, we're more cognizant about that and the impact it has and the disruption on the residents in there. And so for the Opus project, we had a meeting to kind of go over, access and talk about that. There is no sidewalk on Alice. They will be placing one though, but there isn't one now. But there is a sidewalk along CVS. So we made it clear to them that the need to keep the debris off, to keep it accessible throughout that process. Because it's also a heavily traveled sidewalk for the industrial park. So I do apologize on it. It's one of these lessons learned, and now that we have that much activity going on in there, but we're trying to catch up on that.
No problem. Thank you, Carlos.
Yes, sir.
Good. If there's no other further questions, we'll go on to Missy.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Spiegelglass. Mr. Trejo has heard it from the city council on the sidewalks too. And yeah, some of it was the utility companies, and we are all at the mercy of those utility companies. It took a little bit too long, but best practices come forward as a result of that. And I'm glad to hear you brought that up as well, so that you could hear the answer that the city has heard it from many different avenues and are implementing some new ways to do things, because as we all said at the beginning, we're in a pandemic and the city of Olivet is the busiest it's ever been in my 21 years. And in your umpteen years of being a part of those of you that have been here for a long, long time. So, good news as a result of development, and we learn along the way. I do want to share that the coffee with the mayor will be with the mayor, Cindy Clark, and it will be on January 19th. Again at 8:45 in the morning. I am going to assume that this will be by Zoom, because pretty much we're in Zoom right now with everything, and the meeting is supposed to be the 19th. And his guest will be Joelle Aguirre. She is a manager of municipal sales at Republic Services, and they're going to have conversations discussing everything about recycling. We do have 2 EDC positions open at this time. We have been advertising it. One individual needs to be an Olivet business owner and another one an Olivet resident. So far, 3 have applied, and none of them are a Olivet business owner. So if you know someone, and we're going to reach out to, but if you happen to know someone that is interested, has that mindset with regard to EDC and would like to apply their business owner and all of that would be great. I'm going to kind of throw a little wrench in there a little bit and kind of say, we are kind of trying to deal with diversity, equity, inclusion. So we are looking at a diverse, opportunity of applicants if they so do apply. And at the end of the day, it is based upon who applies and whether they can meet the criteria. Those of you that may still have your Christmas trees, they can be picked up outside, by the house, and make sure everything's off, and the Allied Waste should be picking it up. Kiana Fleming does a lot of push outs and informs us of a lot of good, interesting information. And if you don't know it, that the city of Olivet, we became the first dark sky in our region, park and area. And that fact ended up putting us, I've been waiting 21 years for the city of Olivet to be put on a magazine for something. And it put us on the front pages of the Park and Rec monthly magazine with regards to Stacy Park being recognized. So, proud folks, here we are. Other than that, we will have an election coming up. It is uncontested. Kind of spoke about that a little bit back. And we are moving forward with the city and their staff looking at key performance indicators over the last 6 months on our goals and where things have been. So good things are happening. Good things are happening. Happy New Year to everybody. Much appreciative. And you're going to be just as busy this year. And with Dawn, we're going to begin seeing some interesting maps and other GPS kinds of things that make me excited and fill us with a lot of information. Construction. Let me just say, construction has started with regard to Prop C, with regard to grading and other things related to the Great Rivers Greenway and the bike path and the grading of land over by I got to call it Warson Park. I sometimes still remember it as Grandview School Playground. But good stuff is happening, and so stay tuned. And let's see what you can do for us in 2022. I appreciate you all. Thank you all very much for what you do, Mr. Rosenberg. It's great to hear from you. He's getting used to us now.
Yeah.
So God bless you all. Thank you very much. Take care.
Good, good. Dawn, do you have anything you want to contribute?
If my audio is working?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
yay. I do not have anything to add, although I do feel very bad leaving Carlos short-handed this week. So whatever slack you can cut us, it would be great.
Well, good, good, good. I think he's a man of many talents. So
That is
that's
very
good.
true.
Yes, yes. All right. With that being said, I think we'll close the meeting out at 9:02. Happy New Year, everybody.
All right, everybody, stay safe, stay healthy. God bless.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, guys.